All right, good evening, everyone. We will be holding our reorganization meeting, followed by a regular board meeting. So let's start with the rising for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sandals on.
Okay. Mrs. Henical, let's start with a roll call.
Mr. Hamburger,
Here.
Mrs. Miles,
Here.
Mrs. Fortney,
Here.
Mr. Pence.
Here.
Mrs. Zimmerman,
Here.
Mrs. Straight. Here. Dr. Royer. Here. Mr. Marvin,
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here. Okay, thank you. And at this time, I would like to open the floor for nominations for temporary board president. So can I have a motion? I'm sorry, can we have nominations first?
Nominate Dr. Royer to be our temporary board president.
Second, okay. Are there any other nominations for temporary board president? So the motion was made by Mr. Marvin, seconded by Mr. Hamburger. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so Dr. Wendy Royer is elected temporary president to conduct the first portion of the reorganization meeting. Switch chairs.
Do I get to use the gavel?
Yeah.
It's a new one. It's relatively new.
Been a long time since the president used that, huh?
Real long time.
Yeah. At this time, I would like to open the floor for nominations for board president.
Nominate James Marvin.
Second. Are there any other nominations for board president? Okay, can I get a motion and a second to close nominations, please?
No move. Second.
Okay, thank you. Motion made by Mr. Hamburger and seconded by Kim Miles to close the board president nominations. All those in favor of closing nominations, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, all right. Marvin, congratulations. Is nominated for board president. By roll call vote, all those in favor should vote yes, and all those opposed should vote nay. Mrs. Henical?
Mr. Hamburger,
Aye.
Mrs. Miles,
Yes.
Mr. Fortney. Or I'm sorry, Mrs. Fortney.
At first, I forgot my own name. I like how
Mr. Pence,
How soon they forget?
Yeah.
Mrs. Zimmerman.
Yes.
Mrs. Straight,
Yes.
Dr. Royer,
Yes.
Mr. Marvin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, by roll call vote, Mr. James Marvin is elected president of the board for a one-year term ending with the reorganization meeting in December 2025. Good seats.
Musical chairs. I did pass Jim when I was.
Was that?
Alrighty, so now we're going to open the floor for nominations for board vice president. And so is there a motion for a nomination for board vice president?
I would like to nominate Rachel Fortney as board vice president.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Are there any other nominations for vice president? All right, so we have a first nomination by Ms. Linda Zimmerman, seconded by Heidi Straight for Rachel Fortney. This motion is to now close the nominations for vice presidents. Can I?
move.
Second.
Second, all right, so we have a first and second to close nominations. All those in favor of closing nominations, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, so Ms. Rachel Fortney is nominated for vice president. Nominations have been closed. And so again, we will do a roll call vote. Those in favor, please vote by signifying yay. Those opposed should vote nay. Ms. Hennikel, another roll call vote, please.
I'll try to do better this time. Mr. Hamburger,
Aye.
Mrs. Miles,
Aye.
Mrs. Fortney.
Yes.
Mr. Pence.
Aye.
Mrs. Zimmerman,
Aye.
Mrs. Straight, Dr. Royer,
Yes.
Mr. Marvin,
Yes.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
All right, by roll call vote, Mrs. Rachel Fortney is elected vice president of the board for a one-year term ending with the reorganization meeting in December of 2025. Congratulations, Mrs. Fortney. Do we want to do music? Well, we'll pause the musical chairs just for a second. Alrighty, the election of a board secretary or treasurer is not required at this meeting. That election will occur in this coming May. However, Mrs. Zimmerman is currently our secretary. Mrs. Kim Miles is currently our assistant secretary, and then Mrs. Patty Strite is currently our treasurer. So those were 4-year terms when they were elected, and so those terms do expire in 2025. And so this concludes our reorganization meeting. And so can I have a motion and a second to adjourn the reorganization meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right, all those in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, don't go anywhere. So we are adjourned for the reorganization meeting. We're gonna pause real quick for some quick musical chairs and switching of name tags. And then we will get started with our regular board meeting. So take a quick pause.
Elizabeth,
Mm-hmm.
I have changed my board docs password. I was in looking at things and then all of a sudden it came up and wanted me to change it again.
I reset you.
Can you reset me?
It should prompt you to reset it.
I've done it 3 times now. It just keeps coming up.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Want me to kill it for you?
Yes,
I-
I did.
For the whole, for what used to be.
The-
Well, that was one.
Mhm.
Merry Christmas.
Just a reminder, we are live.
And now I'm back in the meeting.
Thank
again.
you.
I'm confused.
Good bless. Don't-
I
Magic. Don't worry about it.
don't touch it.
And it's Chrome, so you can't blame Bill Gates.
All righty.
It appears to be
So-
working now. I don't know. Don't reset me.
I think we're almost settled. Mark, you're so far away. I don't know what to do now. We're gonna go ahead and now we're gonna get started with our regular board meeting. So up first, as typical, we have our agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
The first and the second. Any adjustments, Dr. Sternheim?
Not to my knowledge.
All righty, so all those in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, agenda is approved. Next, we will move to the approval of our minutes from our last regular meeting, which was November 12th. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any amendments or discussion of the minutes? All righty, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Any abstentions? All right, minutes are approved. Then next, we have our superintendent report, Dr. Sternheim.
Thank you, Mr. So,
Yeah.
and congratulations. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Smith for serving as an outstanding president the past 2 years. And we're pleased to invite and have 2 new officers here. I just want to make sure, Alexis, are you going to talk about the cheerleaders? Okay, no, you're not? Okay, so then I don't want to ever steal the thunder of the student reps because I so appreciate you guys being here. So congratulations, we had 13 Washes cheerleaders who qualified for nationals in Florida, and they're going to be competing in February. So you'll probably hear a lot of fundraising options for those cheerleaders in order to prepare for that competition. Elijah Miller is a 10th grade student at Washes, and he was very instrumental in securing funding for the weightlifting club. And he is actually a competitive power lifter, and he has been recognized on the state, regional, and national level. And as of last year, he held 3 state records. Just to clarify, we do not have powerlifting as a PIAA sport at the time here. However, he was invited to the world's competition in Las Vegas and now holds a world record for powerlifting. So big congratulations to Elijah. Also, big congratulations to Mrs. Catherine Myers, 8th grade teacher at WAMS. She teaches science. She was nominated for an Outstanding Teacher Award by the Superintendent's Study Council at Shippensburg University, and she was honored by through a luncheon on November 13th. So big congratulations to Catherine. And just another general announcement today, this evening, a borough blast went out as well as an email to parents essentially indicating that we're going to do an upgrade to the Go Guardian system, which essentially created or has the smart alerts on the district issued Chromebooks that those smart alerts go to administration. Currently, it's going to be expanded to also going to school counselors to essentially keep our learners safe as well as the school district safe. And up and coming in January, we will add an additional feature where parents will also be able to essentially monitor the use of their learner, their child's Chromebook via the parental app. So I don't know if Mr. Erickson has any additional technology related. No, he's saying no. Okay, so anyway, it's a work in progress. So again, it's a great partnership between the school district as well as parents in terms of making sure that our learners are safe online.
Very good, thank you.
Oh, I have one more.
Oh,
Sorry.
like,
Sorry, excuse me. So December is the holiday month, and so I just want to highlight on the following options to be able to attend musical concerts. December 9th, you have the Fairview concert. December 10th, you have the Maori concert. December 12th, you have the Summit View concert. December 15th, you have Washes. December 16th, you have WAM 6th grade. And December 17th, you have WAM 7th and 8th grade. So there's plenty of opportunities to celebrate our learners that are in band or chorus in the month of December. I'll also send that out in the Friday folder.
very good, thank
Okay.
you. Any public comment this evening, Ms. Hennikel?
I did not receive anything.
Alrighty. That brings us then to our student board reports.
We're part of the student board for the high school. I was just gonna talk about the Christmas parade for Waynesboro, Greencastle, and Chambersburg, and how the Waynesboro marching band participated in each one of those. From what I've heard, there was like no major problems, no frostbite or anything. It was really cool. But other than that, yeah, there's really nothing else to talk about this. It went well. So
They took first place at Chambersburg, I believe. Waynesboro
I
band.
think I did read that, yeah.
I did not know that. So we returned from Thanksgiving break today, and it was kind of hard for some people.
You were not one of those people. though.
No,
No.
no, sir. There's an attendance bingo going on at school. Basically, like whoever shows up to school the most, like gets a surprise, like a prize. And so it's probably because it's coming back from break, they want people to show up. There's gonna be a winter service project where the pre-K will like judge a bunch of the boards, like the doors and the PLTs, which is basically like a homeroom, and then they get to like decide who gets like they based off the grade level they decide who gets a prize, and then the 9th grade students who are interested in career tech just toured the career tech center up in Chambersburg last week. The applications are due in January, and students will begin interviewing in February.
All right. Sorry about my voice. I think I went a little bit too hard at cheer practice today. Um, our winter sports seasons have started, and our practices started on November 15th, and then all of our games are going to be starting this week. I know our basketball game is tomorrow, and the Fall Spirit Week last week before we left for break was hosted by our student council. And the Waynesboro wrestling team, in their quest to raise funds for breast cancer awareness, the pink out shirts will be sold during lunches for $20 on December 10th and 11th. And the breast cancer awareness wrestling match will be held on December 19th as Borough takes on the Big Spring Bulldogs. And for the next 2 weeks until break, we will be able to decorate PLT's doors, and the pre-K is going to come and judge them, and whoever wins gets to win some donuts, which is fun. But other than that, I think that's everything we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have our board reports, so we'll go in order. Anything from our policy committee?
Yeah, policy committee met November 21st. We have 6 policies going to first reading tonight. Policy 218, student discipline, 218.1, weapons, 218.2, terroristic threats, 607, tuition income, 803, the school calendar, and 806, child abuse.
Thank you for the work there. Anything from our academic committee?
We have not met.
Okay. Facilities, I don't want to put anyone else on the spot, so I'll go ahead and give that report. We met, this past time we met, we were able to hear from, Mr. Black, who's done a lot of good work, on our North Bridge. And so you'll see that that is on our docket for this evening. One fun fact from him, he first encountered working on our North Bridge back in 1987. And so he has a lot of history and knowledge in the area, so it was fun to hear from him. With this past Thanksgiving break, there were a couple of projects that happened. One is I think they were planning to work on the roof of Whams. And so another thing was the Summit View Library also received their new furniture. So I got a kind of a sneak peek when I was there for student conferences. It looks very nice. So I'm sure that they've got everything unpacked and ready to go. And then just one item that was discussed but no action happened was the stadium lights. These are kind of the older lights. And so it was just kind of a brief discussion about we're going to have to change some bulbs. And so part of it was, do we want to keep doing what we have been doing? Do we want to start replacing them with LEDs? Things like that. So nothing was decided, but just the very beginnings of that conversation. And then I'll just briefly comment, budget did not meet. So the next facilities meeting will be next week, December 10th. And then budget will meet beginning in January. So that is it for board reports there. So next we'll move down to business. Up first, we have personnel. So, Dr. Sean.
Good evening, Mr. Marvin. Hello, everyone. Yeah, we're asking the board for approval for a number of items here this evening. The first one is the retirement of a support staff member, Elizabeth J. Cole, who spent a lot of time as a special education paraeducator at Maury Elementary School. 28.5 years of service to the district. So congratulations to Elizabeth Cole, and thank you very much, ma'am, for your service to the district. We have 3 resignations, 4 reassignments, support staff. We have 6 support staff appointments, 1 coaching staff appointment, and you'll also notice we have a number of extracurricular staff we're looking for your approval for pertaining our early bird program at Fairview. We'll have some coming up for Hooverville and Maury soon too. And then an appointment of a substitute support staff. And then last but not least are 4 requests for leave.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the personnel as listed?
I'll move.
Or second?
Second.
All right, we have first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Up next, we have our 2025 Board of Directors meeting dates. Those are attached there. Any comment, Dr. Serhan?
No, I mean, we're essentially following the same pattern. We're also looking at, continuing meetings at the high school to honor student athletes as well as band corps academic awards. If the board is in agreement. Pattern.
Good. Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the 2025 Board of Directors meeting dates?
To approve.
First, is there a second?
Second.
The second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Up next, we have our Act One Index Resolution. Dr. Holtzman.
Thank you, sir. So each year, school districts are required to do one of two things: either present a budget that exceeds the Act One index, meaning that we would need to raise taxes above the Act One index, or approve this resolution that says we will not seek exceptions and go above the index. As part of that also, we're also receiving what's called adequacy funding this year. With the adequacy funding, we can't even go to a referendum anyway. So which would be another separate process as well. So we're very limited really in those manners. So based on the current situation of the budget, our recommendation is to approve the resolution stating that we will stay within the index. This does not advocate or recommend our districts raising taxes or changing them, but it's just a requirement. Again, the other option is we actually have to present a budget to the community that would say we're going to potentially raise taxes over the index. Historically, we have always passed the index.
Very good, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the Act One Index Resolution for the 2025-26 school year?
Second.
First and a second. Any discussion on the Act One Index? Any questions for Dr. Holtzman? Right, seeing none, why don't we go ahead and vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Right, motion carries. Next, we have tax collector compensation. Right back to you, Dr. Holtzman.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So
Okay.
every 4 years, the school district has to set the rate that we will pay our tax collectors. And they need to know that rate before they run for office. So this is a process we have to go through. The next opportunity, of course, is this coming, I should say, winter, really January, February timeframe that we would notify the tax collectors. And again, that would apply to anybody who wants to run for any of those offices. What we did is we provided some information in here. Essentially, we're recommending a 50% increase per parcel. And we're doing that across the board for each tax collector. They do have varying amounts, but those were really based on a lot of reasons. One of it was that we were trying to encourage those who really have very few parcels to run for office, because if you have very few parcels, you still have to have all the same work, the software, the time, the office, and things of that nature to go through. So the idea is we're actually compensating them a little bit more. Even the ones that are at the have the fewest parcels, which means they have the higher percentage, a couple of them actually have kind of taken pay cuts over the years and from previous time frames. So when we used to have an occupation tax and a per capita tax and things of that nature. We did provide some additional information. We were able to go out and find out what some of the other districts are providing today. We don't know what they're going to provide for next election cycle. We're essentially right in the middle when you look at that. Some of them pay it salaried, and if you look at that on a per bill basis, they're certainly higher than we are, but some are lower than we are. So again, we've been kind of in the middle of this process here. They do a great job for us. They collect a lot of money. They collect probably right around $31 million for us, $32 million for us. So the percentage of collection is relatively low when you start thinking about that manner. So, and then we also put down kind of what the information was at the bottom about what they received approximately for their 23-24 payments, what that per bill kind of equates to from an actual to a dollar amount. So all told, it's about $60,000 is cost for this last year.
So where would we stand on this chart? 'Cause our
Kind of right in the middle. I mean, some of them
Survey-
are $7 to $10 and some are $2.50 to $3. And we're kind of in the middle there.
Is there a reason we're not, am I missing something? Is there a reason we're not on this chart?
Oh, I'm sorry. I had us in the resolution itself. I'm sorry. I had the dollar amounts in the
Oh,
resolution,
okay.
Dr.
All
Williams.
right.
Sorry about that.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, it probably would have been easier to put everybody in the same chart. Our rates do vary, but right. So we're anywhere from, the recommendation would be anywhere from $4 to $6, depending on the collector. And then the real estate, the installments are 1/3 of that rate, by the way, just to give you a heads up. So we don't have that many people take advantage of installments, but again, they would receive 1/3 of the.
When was the last increase?
It would have been 4 years ago. Yeah, it would have been the last election cycle.
Right, is there a motion to approve the tax collector compensation resolution for the 26 to 29 timeframe?
So moved.
There's second.
Second.
Is here a second? Any other discussion? Any other questions? Good. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Straight abstains?
Because
the
my
reason.
husband's a tax collector.
I think there's a marital
Tax
conflict
collector.
of potential of interest there, so.
I would just like to note that the tax collecting is a thankless job. They don't make a lot of money, and commend anyone that runs for any public office, particularly one that catches as much grief as these folks.
Yes. So, alrighty, thank you very much. We now move on to bus drivers.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we have for your approval 3 drivers there listed, and those are drivers for one of our non-public schools that we're required to transport to, and that's
Thank you. So is there a motion to approve bus drivers as listed?
Move to approve.
There's a second?
Second.
Right, we have first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Carries. All right, still your party, Dr. Holtzman.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you.
approval to advertise the
The
North
North
Bridge
Bridge.
project.
Sure, yes, sir. So as you mentioned earlier during the board reports, this is a project we've been looking at for quite a long time. I think I had to go back in my notes and look at, we started looking at this in 2019. And so it kind of took a long time to go through the process. The idea was to move forward with that bridge, but then the South Bridge, actually, we realized was even in worse shape through the process and evaluation. So we ended up replacing it first and then from a priority perspective, and then kind of put this one behind. It probably is at least a year behind in terms of projects, and simply that was because of DEP. DEP took a very long time to approve, which is not unusual. They have a process that they go through. But we do have their approval and their permit now, and their permit right now as it exists now is actually good through, I believe it's June of 26. So even another year past this point. So what we would recommend doing is putting this out to bid. So the motion tonight is really simply just to go ahead and get agreement to put this out to bid. We're not accepting the bids. We're not saying we're going to actually do the project at this point because we want to see what the bids come in at. I think Mr. Black did a great job of explaining, ups and downs sometimes of the bidding process. And sometimes you go out to bid and sometimes you have to go out to bid a second time. But we would be hopeful that we would get some good responses from here. We did have a great bid for the South Bridge, which was a local company that was very advantageous to us. Obviously, we were kind of hoping to get a similar result with the North Bridge. The solicitor has reviewed all that. We received confirmation this week that the documents are meeting their expectations and requirements.
Thank you.
Just as a clarification, this is a project that has to be done, though. Don't have a bridge.
That's the concern. There's no safety concerns now, but there's a significant amount of erosion, along the base of it as well. And then, of course, there's a lot of structural rust and things of that nature underneath the bridge. It's okay right now. We have approval to use it. It's good to 5 tons at this point. But the concern is that at some point we know we're going to have a more serious problem. We'd like to address that before it
And
becomes
it's
a
gonna
serious
cost
problem.
more down the road than it will now.
Right. Our goal is to do this during the summertime. That way it does not impact the students who walk back and forth between the high school and middle school. Our buses all drop off at the high school and the kids walk up the hill. And of course, they're using that bridge as well as the South Bridge.
Is there a motion to approve the district to advertise for repairs of the North Bridge between the high school and middle school?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Any additional questions? Mr. Kaiser?
Just to clarify, the North Bridge is the one farther away from the road, correct?
It's the one right by Second Street up there.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, let's go ahead and vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Up next, we have a couple of clubs. So first we will do the Washes Esports Club.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Marvin. Yeah, so we're seeking the board's approval for an esports club. Presentation was done at our last academic meeting in November. It was received favorably, and Dr. Roy could certainly speak to it. I know Mr. McCray is in the audience too this evening, but for those who don't know, the esports is really taken off. It's become actually a very incredibly serious sport. People were getting tons of scholarship monies at colleges and universities who play in esports. It's just not about the game itself, but there's a lot of thinking and critical skills that go into the esports club, and it's something if you certainly would want to pose questions to Mr. McCray about, you certainly could, but I've done some investigation myself, and Mr. McCray and I went over, I know Dr. Sterner Hahn, I went over and met with the leader of the ad hoc group at the time, which we're seeking for approval. We had a really good conversation about what was going on, and just a nice, just a good feel to the organ. But anyhow, yeah, so we're seeking for your approval for this organization. You have any questions for me or Mr. McCray? You could certainly come up and speak to some of your questions at the podium.
So no one's gonna hurt their knee doing this, but they might get carpal tunnel syndrome.
So yeah, you're right about that, Mr. Hamburger, but let me also add too, I don't know if you read through the bylaws, but we also had the conversation too, obviously, when you get into some of these video games, it's just like movies, right? You have anywhere from the general audience to the not so general audience, like rated R and plus, some. So the one thing we certainly, and I'm confident most of the organizations in esports are playing 10 plus everyone, nothing mature or anything like that. So it wouldn't be like any type of shooting games or what's the one Super Mario Crush? What was the one I know that I was watching? Yeah.
Just saying.
I have one fan over here.
Maybe I'll come to the
Yeah.
esports group.
Yeah,
I have enough trouble with Pong.
Boy, are you dating yourself?
Yeah.
Let's kick it old school. Pac-Man.
Is that Atari? I think that was Atari.
No.
If
No,
God
it's
forbid.
Atari.
Sorry.
It's like 1978, I believe,
Yeah.
76 maybe.
So I have a question. It talks about like, if someone has failing grades, they kind of counsel with them to try to get them to get their grades up. General questions about clubs. Do students have to be academically eligible to participate in clubs?
My answer is more than likely not.
Oh, okay.
We
okay.
do have the athletic eligibility. I believe
so
that
but it's not-
this is the second time around at esports to try to get board approval. So that might have been an extra. We're going to try to make sure that we are balancing all our gaming with our academics.
Usually the gamers don't usually have any academic issues. Thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the Washes Esports Club?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any other discussion?
It's
Um,
not a discussion, it's just a question. I believe this group meets on Wednesdays, correct, after school in the library?
Yeah. I just wanted to thank Mr. McCray for enlightening us during the academic committee. Mr. McCray did a great presentation. We've heard presentations before. He sent me a great article that I learned a lot more, and apparently, according to my grandson, he had no idea that I didn't know about this. So like, why wouldn't you know about this? But anyway, I just want to commend you and thank you for your persistence in bringing something forward that's a little bit, non-traditional in terms of normal clubs. And thank you, students, for advocating for something that you want to have in your school. And the academic committee is pleased to recommend for acceptance this club and also the following one on the agenda.
Could you please repeat who the first and second motion?
I made the
Dr. Boyer is
motion.
the first, and then
Wait.
Mr. Hamburger as the second.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Long guy.
Any other questions or comments? I think. go ahead.
Anything that fosters sportsmanship and teamwork and so on is something we should always endorse.
Yeah, agree.
I think just the final comment, I remember when I was in grad school, I was talking with someone and they actually made a career out of esports commentating. And so I was watching Monday Night Football. I had Joe Buck and Troy Aikman commenting on the game, and so that is also another potential with this esports club. There's a lot of growth opportunities for observation and commenting. It is not an easy skill to clearly describe what is happening so that audience members can understand what is happening. Or to analyze what is happening for those that have no idea what's happening. So,
So we're gonna have a Howard Cosell of Super Mary.
hey, let's do it. I'd love to meet the next Joe Buck of esports announcing. So, alrighty, why don't we go ahead and vote? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations to our visitors back there. Up next, we have the WAMS Club.
Yes, Mr. Marvin. So Erica's Lighthouse, it's kind of a sister club in a sense to a VEDM, which we approved at the high school, which was kind of a suicidal awareness and mental health club. And this is similar in a sense at WAMS. So it's basically bringing, putting mental health in the spotlight. It's a team of, I think it's going to parallel really great too with Leader and Me at the middle school. But it's a group of folks coming together, discussing, learning about mental health and supporting those in the school with those situations. And all are welcome to join and be a part of the organizations.
Good. Is there a motion to approve the WAMS Erica's Lighthouse Club?
To approve.
Second.
First and second. Any discussion? Questions? Seeing none, why don't we go ahead and vote? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. Right, then that brings us to our first readings of policy. This is for discussion only as a first reading. And so you see there are 6 policies there. Mr. Pence, any additional comment for the board about any of these?
Just some minor changes, nothing.
Okay.
So I do want to clarify,
I can fix that.
can you
right now
fix
if
it
give
right
me
now?
3
Thank you.
seconds.
So if you recognize, under school calendar, it was, and we inadvertently cut and pasted another policy. So I was texting, Ms. Tentacle during the meeting saying we have to change that, but we're going to work on it now. So if you give us a few minutes, it will be accurate. We did a whole lot of cut and pasting, but it had the wrong policy. It was labeled correctly, but it was the wrong policy.
A question about the discipline.
Yeah, test if you actually read it.
We're looking at the discipline, the only change, I guess, is a strike through, is the, inclusion of restorative practices in the code of conduct. And it says PSBA recommended? Any thoughts about why they recommended restorative practices? I don't think we use restorative practices in this district.
We do not. I mean,
Okay.
we have, for a period of time, we had youth court, which is probably the most common. Right now, it's not as active as it used to be. We were concerned about essentially suggesting we were going to do that, and we didn't necessarily have that
Right,
in the works, or in practice. So it's not something that we're necessarily opposed to. Interestingly enough, I think a lot of our teachers engage in restorative practices on a daily basis in a classroom where they're electing, to counsel or speak to a student prior to making some type of referral. So at this point, I believe that was the decision of the policy committee, if I'm accurate.
Okay, thank
It
you.
is corrected now.
You're okay now? Okay, great.
Yeah, I would say that restorative practices is part of a long list of things. You know what I'm saying, that we do. I think probably when this, was written, that was one of the first things to come out,
Mhm.
maybe, oh geez, 20-some years ago, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's probably why it was included in the original.
Yeah, because it requires a lot of training, for staff, and so that's like a budget item would be,
Sure.
so, yeah. Okay.
So I believe ultimately we're looking at it from a holistic approach with like Leader in Me in terms of how we're, the type of instruction we're providing our learners now at middle school and high school. So ultimately, it's all part of a package that we
Mhm.
need to continue to refine.
And I think the reservations too was that some people would feel as if, because I was in a district where it was rolled out and a lot of folks were apprehensive about it because they thought it was going to take the place of traditional discipline. And so it's just another tool to use along with the other disciplines. So,
Okay, I gotta ask, what the heck are restorative practices?
wow. Yeah, so restorative practice.
30 seconds. is all.
Yeah, it's a long story, but basically, it comes from, the roots of it comes, it's actually from New Zealand. It's sort of a tribal roots where they feel as though, if someone, does something to someone to harm them or offend them, then, instead of excluding the person, regular school would suspend them and give them detention. This person has to sit in front of the person that they harmed and basically explain how they're going to repair the harm. That's just a quick version of it or whatever, but that's not a, I'm going to suspend you, expel you type of thing, but it's more of you have to like have some
Makes sense to me.
follow up. I mean,
Okay.
it works. But there's no, and one of the arguments against it is that there's no restorative justice when you deal with the criminal justice system, right? So we're kind of setting, because I've made that argument too, we're setting kids up for failure because once they are 18 and they have to deal with the criminal justice system, if they, do something, commit a crime or whatever, there's nothing in the court process that will do that for them.
Sure,
And so
Now you're
yeah,
in big time, yes.
yeah.
That's even with adults too, Mr. Smith, just not with students and learners, but just even with adults, to repair like bad feelings or things, or, people said some things to one another, to sit down and have a conversation about, and to Mr. Smith's point, it does require some training, and we actually last year, Mr. Bigler and Mr. Hoffman the IU has a series of trainings and offer trainings for that, but it's like Dr. Sternheim said, it's really a part of an all-encompassing
Right.
umbrella into that kind of whole child piece too, our pillar, we're just trying to, it's not, it can stand alone, but really it's a part of all that you're doing.
Yeah, I found it most effective in dealing with bullying issues because I've had students that, when a person harms a student, it's not just the student they harm, but their parents, brothers, sisters, or whatever. So we invite everybody in for a conversation, and even on the other side as well. So it's kind of a lot to try to organize, very cumbersome. But, it's, I guess the premise is that you feel the person who is the offender has some sort of empathy, and they never accounted for the fact that what if the kid or the offender doesn't have empathy? So that's,
Well, we're all human beings, we all make mistakes, but some of us have different psyches.
Any other discussion on this first reading? So, I think, our typical practice is policy committee will review this, hear any additional comment from the board or the public, and then they'll bring this back at a second later meeting for, approval. That will bring us down then into our financial business. Why don't we go ahead and do both purchase orders and bills for payment and property assessment changes together?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Marvin. So we have typical purchase orders for the general fund as well as the cafeteria fund and requisitions. We also have property assessment changes. One is for disabled veteran and the other is due to the timing of when they actually took occupancy of the home.
Good. Is there a motion to approve both of the financial business items?
Move to
Paid.
approve.
I have a first and a second. We'll do Ms. Straight and Mr. Hamburger. Any other discussion or questions? Right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That brings us near the end. So are there any Clayton Cabinet comments?
Yeah, I have four actually. The first is speaking of clubs, coming down the pike here maybe, and then we'll put more in the Friday folder for everybody, but we have another interesting kind of alternative kind of club that you normally wouldn't think of, but it's Pockets, which is a billiards facility here in the community. And we'll talk more to everybody about that. The gentleman that presented to us are very eager, very, I mean, you should, I'll just, I don't know if it comes electronically or not, but there's a binder this much, a dossier of just all the things that go along with billiards and math and geometry, just in and of itself, but also teamwork and working together. And I know there's sometimes a stigma that goes along with that. You know, it's not like the Keller of Money, you know, Paul Newman and Tom Cruise, you know, who was named Vince in the movie. But anyhow,
Or
but yeah,
Minnesota
so
Fats.
are you? So anyhow, again, really, we'll talk more about that. The other thing I just wanted to mention, give a big shout out and kudos to really all of our third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers, our administrators. We just had conferences last week, and as you all know, we're aware of, we were making that adjustment and switch with our standards-based grading and report cards. And I just can't, we just were in a grade level coordinator meeting earlier, and just, I honestly and sincerely, you know, we just talked about just how professional. I mean, obviously, it was a big adjustment and a shift to do that, but our folks just really embraced that. Our teachers and you know, and the comments were pretty much parents really just wanted to know how their kid was doing. You know, and so we'll continue to tweak and make adjustments. And again, it was a huge team effort, and we put a lot of communications out too. And again, just everybody working together, and just it was good. So we appreciate that. You guys have one of these here in front of you, the School Board Appreciation Dinner, which is on 2 days before my birthday. So maybe cake there on. You don't have to give me anything, Mr. Pence. And one last shout out. So I do want to thank everybody. I was able to attend the Pennsylvania Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development this past week, and I'm sitting there. It's really very good sessions, and I got an email from a teacher that said something like, "Hey, I really," it was kind of like just got caught up and forgot about this, but needed to have could we do a standards-based report card? Could we print that out and some of the news, some of the information in Vietnamese? And I'm like, well, dang, Vietnamese. I mean, I know we have a Spanish person who's done that, and but just so happened I was sitting in this AI, artificial intelligence session, and talking about all these great things that AI can do for everybody, and they have their translation thing, and I'm like, I'll bet you any money. So I get on the email there and said, Mr. McCrae, hey, this is Todd. Hey, I just got an email from so-and-so. Can we put this report card run through AI and get it in Vietnamese? And sure enough, about an hour or so later, Mr. McCrae printed us off a standards-based report card in Vietnamese.
Oh.
So, and I'll end with that.
Thank you, Dr. Sean. Anything else from our Clayton team? Very good. Any board member comments?
I do.
I just wanted to wish Megan and Diane and Keith good luck at the upcoming SAS Institute this weekend. I was up in Hershey this weekend, and I was thinking about you guys presenting next week, and just really, really proud. For those of you, not in education, SAS is probably the biggest thing in Pennsylvania. And it's not an easy thing to be selected to present. I was looking at the it's incredible. That's actually, is it Cork? George.
George,
Yeah, our speaker, he was one of the speakers at SAS a few years ago, and the presenters this year look incredible. Yeah, just amazing. So it's a great opportunity for you to attend as well as present. So congratulations. Have fun.
Any other board member comments? We'll conclude it just by saying thank you for allowing me to serve as your board president. I pledge to listen well. That doesn't always mean we will agree, but I will always seek to understand and listen well. And then thank you to Mr. Smith. It's been a pleasure to sit next to you and learn and listen to you. And I think kind of Dr. Rohr's concluding with that, we have a lot of great teachers in our district doing a lot of great work. And so I think it's the highest compliment for you three in particular next week. But I think that just goes to show that there's a lot of good happening in our district and a lot to be proud of. So on that note, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you all. Have a good evening.